This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am here in the very fancy Boca Raton location of Pod Populi, Podcasts for the people. And, every time we do a podcast or have a conversation about any of these things, there's always a negative slant because people go there instinctively. They want to say he did the wrong thing, or he reacted the wrong way, or she was the wrong girl, or it was the wrong time, or they said the wrong thing, blah, blah, blah. But if you flip that around, there are lots of times where if somebody says the right thing or says it in the right way at the right time to the right person, everything changes. And people are like, well, give me some examples of that because I haven't experienced that. I think a really great line matters. I think if you say something in the right way at the right time, the right matters. I've written some very great lines. Do you know how I know that? Because I have seen my great lines paraphrased and fucked up. You want to steal my line? Fine. You want to screw it up? I'm going to get mad. But I have been writing a long, long time, and a lot of it's about this stuff. So one of the examples of that I can give all y'alls about how a great line can really make you see things in a different way is about 6 or 7 or 10 or 12 episodes ago. We did a deep dive on romantic comedies. And we left a little bit of meat on the bone. Is that the phrase? Meat on the bone on that one. And we got tons of feedback. Why didn't you talk about this? You have terrible taste in movies. I don't know how you did a whole episode without bringing it up. Yep. We were wrong. We got off on a lot of tangents. We forgot about a lot of movies. So I'm bringing her back. I'm rolling her back in. She is in the great state of Florida from a different state.
My arms are tired.
A
from
cold
all the flying.
state. And she abandoned her husband and children, and she flew into Florida. She's back again to help us out because I think she feels that she had some meat on the bone. Is that the phrase?
I don't like that.
I don't like that either, but I think that's the phrase.
Business?
Yeah, that's
better.
That's maybe better.
I do
she's
like ribs.
She's like, I think I didn't do that. Well, let me ask you a rib question first of all.
Okay.
How many napkins would you go through if I gave you a rack of ribs?
Honestly, I just wouldn't even use them. You just lick the fingers, and then at the end, you get the wet.
So you can go through it without it driving you crazy. You can
probably. Yeah,
that's bold.
And then you just have to get used to like your water glass is going to be covered in juices.
Yeah, I've seen some people who are like typewriter style, like corn on the cob it, and they don't eat a single napkin.
You got to be an animal.
Can you eat ribs on a date?
Ooh,
it's risky.
Yeah,
it's a real risk early on.
It kind of is.
Anyway, we're bringing her back. She's the host
and
of
it's more so you don't want to get the meat stuck in your tooth when you're making out with them later. You know?
Are you going to eat that? You might.
He might eat it.
Right.
Then talk about
I'm going to
meat
introduce you now. She's the host of the one with all the 90s. Is that right? I got it right this time. A very popular podcast about the 90s. And the 90s is getting a lot of... First of all, Katie Gross, how are you?
Oh, first of all, thank you. I'm good.
The 90s are getting a lot of play now. Chuck Klosterman has a book out about the 90s now. And he makes the argument, and I think he's right, that the 90s were the last decade that felt like a decade.
Yes.
Like since we turned the page in the new millennium, everything's kind of blurred together. Like you couldn't be like 2008 and 2015 and 2020. They all sort of are this mishmash of undefined things. And he makes the argument that the 90s began with Kurt Cobain and Nirvana and Smells Like Teen Spirit. He thinks that was the seminal kickoff moment, and it went actually through sort of 9/11. So that 10-year period is a very defined period where we act a certain, and then after that, we just moved into this mishmash of social media and self-indulgence and all that.
You could also go the Disney animation route and go that it was Little Mermaid through Tarzan. Takes you through 89 to 99.
But I wouldn't know if Tarzan came out like I don't think those are 90s things.
But if someone said like Hercules or Tarzan, would you know if was it beginning of the 90s or end?
I wouldn't know there was the 90s.
I would.
I wouldn't know any of them. But you are the 90s, so you know. But the 90s and the 80s and the, a little bit the 2000s, that was the glory days of romantic comedies. So I brought up the lines that people be like, oh, that's good, and that would make a difference. There's a handful of them that we did not touch on in the last one. We're going to cover a lot of ground on this. I have a few different sort of subcategories to talk about, but I want to talk about the lines.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
You said that people said we were wrong.
Oh, that's different. Yeah, we were wrong about some of them.
What was I wrong about? What were we?
I
need details.
That we'll get into that.
Okay.
I'll talk about what we were wrong. Not that I'm going to admit we were wrong. We were wrong about a couple things.
I don't like you were wrong, but I'm not going to talk about it.
Okay, no, we will definitely
Okay,
talk
right.
to it. I got to get into it. So I'm going to give you a line, and you're going to tell me the movie, and then we're going to talk about why it was so significant. The first one I'm going to talk about is actually two lines. It actually bookended itself. Do you know what that is? You had me at hello.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
From Jerry Maguire. Okay. You had me at hello was basically her ending his speech when he started with, you complete me. Both of those lines are fantastic, and they're both very memorable. He came in with his line. She came in with her line, and that's why it's such a good scene. It totally makes sense. If somebody said that in real life, you'd be like, oh, my God, you would swoon, you know?
Yeah.
Jerry Maguire is
Or show me the money. That's a very sexy line.
Show me the money. It is, and you remember it, but it's not a romantic.
It's not.
It's not a romantic.
But it could be.
It could be. Cameron Crowe, who wrote and directed that movie, also wrote and directed Almost Famous. Are you familiar with Almost Famous?
Kate Hudson.
That I don't consider a romantic comedy because nobody really ends up with anybody.
Yeah.
And it's not really about that. It's more of a coming of age story. But again, there's a lot of money lines in that. He wrote that. But back to Jerry Maguire. So Jerry Maguire, he basically, for all the single moms out there who are like, oh, nobody's going to want to date me, or the guys were like, that was an example of a guy. He started out with a super hot girlfriend, the late Kelly Preston, who starred in that.
Yes.
She's kind of a bitch, but she was super hot.
Didn't care, yeah.
Didn't care.
Beautiful.
And then he sort of fell for somebody he worked with the kid. He was willing to take it all on, and you complete me.
But the kid was cute, too. That helps a lot. So maybe
The kid
if you're a
was
single
weird.
mom, give your kid like 10 fun facts to say when they're with the new guy that you're dating. So
He
they
didn't
can
scare him
impress.
off.
The human head weighs 8 pounds.
Yeah, it wasn't scary for that kid. That was a good line.
Yeah,
Both of those
yeah.
are good lines. They make sense. I'm going to give you another one. And you might not remember this.
I'm nervous that I'm afraid I'm not going to know
You make me
these.
want to be a better man.
Oh, you make me want to be a better man. Give me a year-ish.
I don't know
Do you
the year, but I'll tell you, it was Jack Nicholson in As Good as It Gets.
Good, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a really good line. It makes sense.
Yes.
Men, I have heard say versions of that before and since, but they never quite nailed it. I think Jim Brooks wrote that, but
And that's better than you complete me.
it is
Yeah.
better. And he was a little older. Helen Hunt was the love interest. Is
No,
that right?
it was,
I'm going to say yes, it was Helen Hunt.
really?
Yeah, I think it was.
What am I thinking of? Okay, maybe it's another rom-com he did. Who's the woman who always wears the gloves?
Diane
Beautiful.
Keaton.
Yes, that's a different one.
That is
right?
a different one.
Is that the one where they get divorced?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Everybody likes Diane
It could
Keaton,
be.
though.
She's great.
I know. I used to see her kicking
Do
around
they
Santa
like?
Monica
Do they
sometimes.
like Nicholson?
Nicholson, you wouldn't figure would be a romantic comedy guy because he was a little too impish on one hand and scary on another time. But in that movie, he was a guy a little bit set in his ways. So it's another thing. The women don't want to date the guys in their 40s and 50s, whatever, because they're like, I don't want to deal with guys set in their ways. He was one of those guys in this movie, his character, and she made him want to change. And as he said, you make me want to be a better man is a amazing
That's a good one.
line. And a woman can understand that because she's like, I had a positive effect on him, but he was ready to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't just like, this is the way I am, take it or leave it. Okay?
That is very romantic. Yes.
I'm going to give you another one.
Okay.
I'm
I
just
like
a
it.
girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her.
That was the blonde. Oh my
No,
gosh.
she's not a blonde.
Yes.
Or maybe she was then. It's Notting Hill with Julia Roberts. Is she a blonde?
Oh no, no, you're right.
I don't think she's a
Of
blonde.
different one. Who am I thinking of? Yeah, welcome to my brain.
I don't know. And that was, I mean, when she says that line, the stumbling, bumbling Hugh Grant, I guess was just a regular
Yeah.
dude, and she was a famous actress. Is that what happened in that movie?
Honestly, I don't. Clearly, I don't remember that.
I don't
one
remember the
very
movie
well.
either, but you remember the
You
line.
remember the line, absolutely.
It's a famous
Yeah.
line, and if somebody had said this, if you take it out of the context of movies, and part of my point is like, if you think about how to say this in a right way, it doesn't have to be super eloquent, but it has to be meaningful, and it has to be something that could only be from you, and it could only be for her, or vice versa, that both of you understand what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get in here too. So all of this stuff where he in that movie was like, you know, you're famous and I'm this and I'm not, and he kept bringing up the obstacles of what it was, and then she broke it down to girl and a boy asking him to love her.
I also think though, if you're trying to come up with that tagline or your special phrase that you can use, it's also a one-time use thing. Like you can't go around town while you're dating and use that same line on everyone, because eventually it'll come around and bite you in the ass.
I know, but you don't have to use the line from the movie, but if you had the meaning of it, like the substance of it is, she broke it down to, we're just two people here. Let's get away from all the trappings. Let's pretend all this stuff, and this is what we are at its core. People can understand it. I'm going to give you the money. We talked about this movie a lot on the last one we did. The greatest line comes from the greatest rom-com. You know, you remember what we named the greatest rom-com?
It was When Harry Met Sally.
Correct.
Yes.
And-
Oh, I got something right.
And the line, when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you want that moment to start as soon as possible.
Aw. Yeah.
That's
a
the
great
greatest
line.
rom-com line ever written. In possibly the greatest rom-com ever written.
It's a good one.
So they nailed both the movie and they nailed both. And if you said that to somebody in real life, they get it. They're like, I'm in. That is, I am putting all my chips on the table. So let's do this, and let's do this now.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, what would you do if you were on a date with a guy and he used that line on you? Does it help if you know the movie? Like if he just
Well,
spit
everybody
it
know
out?
you cannot use a movie line.
So you have to take that line and
I'm
tweak
saying
it a
to
little
break
bit.
these down to the feelings and what you're going to say. And again, not everybody's. I think Nora Ephron wrote that, possibly. Not everybody is that. But if you think about what am I trying to express and how am I trying to express it, and a lot of us just babble, all kinds of things, and we don't know what to say. And if you just think about what am I trying to say in this one moment, in this one sentence to this person to make her understand, you might never get it right, and a lot of us get it wrong. But if you think about that, the why and the how and the what am I trying to express to this other person,
So what do you think people
that's a
are
magical
saying,
skill.
What do you think people are saying that they're getting wrong, that they could fix? Like, give me an example.
Well, they say things like,
or just getting more
I don't
creative
know
instead
why
of-
you don't like me, or don't you see what I see, or why can't I make you understand? Or they're either a little too desperate or a little. Most of these things about these lines is they seem very clean. And they come out. Most of the times we are so fraught with emotion in these conversations that we never quite properly or eloquently get out what we're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the screenwriting and these lines go through 100 drafts, and I get that. So I'm not saying everybody can just spit out the magic thing, but it's about the thought. If you're like, how can I encapsulate this one emotion and thought to express to this person exactly what I feel? I think if you take a beat or a minute and you're like, this is what I want to say, because we certainly try and sum things up in a text or a post or an email or whatever all the time. And it's just like, let me explain what exactly this boils down to. You had me at hello means I don't care what you said. You showed up. Mm-hmm. You showed up in the problem with that scene. Are you familiar enough with Jerry Maguire to do the time?
Ish.
Okay. So he's at the game in Arizona. It's a Monday Night Football game where Rod Tidwell, is that the player? Is that
name, yeah, because he was
Cuba
the
Gooding?
manager. Yeah.
He's there. So Monday Night Football, Arizona time, which is an hour ahead of Los Angeles. So I'll guarantee that because he flew back to Los Angeles. That probably
This is important to know.
I a little flaw in the plot.
Okay.
So that game ends at best. Starts at back then 7 p.m. Arizona time. Game's over at 10. Press conference, everything. It's about midnight that it ends Arizona time. Somehow he gets a late flight from Phoenix back to Los Angeles. He then gets from LAX to looks like they live in the valley. That's another hour. she's still at her book club or whatever at like 1:30 in the morning with all her friends.
Have
as
you
a
been to
single
a book
mom.
club? Those things
Well,
get
yeah, maybe I'm
rowdy.
wrong. This is a Monday night too because
Yeah,
it's Monday Night
that's what I'm
Football.
saying.
So it's a Monday night book club still going strong when he struts in about 1.